Now that you know quite a bit about minor chords and where to find them, it's time to kind of get into the secrets of really playing the minor chords. And there have been things going on around you that other players have been doing for years and years that make minor chords a lot easier to play. Now, we've been playing the right minor chord using the A pedal and the D and the B and C, and that's quite all right, playing those things. Remember, we said probably the biggest part of the problem was finding the minor chord. But remember the first little formula that we used back there. I said, remember this formula because it tells us a lot of useful things we want to use later. And what we're talking about doing is increasing what you know and what you can play by using some old standard information that you've known for years, and that's major chords. We're talking about throwing out the minor chord and substituting in the relative major chord for it because you already know a lot about the major chord. And the sound is going to get better, not worse or not different. It's all right to play the minor chord. We're not saying that. We're saying that we can throw out the minor chord and play the relative major, and it gives us more information, and it gives us old familiar information that you know a lot about and things to play. So it's going to increase what you know about minor chords 300, 500, 600% strictly by taking a new idea, not having to learn new licks. Let's go to the board though and let's kind of sneak up on it and make it the easy way. Remember what we said back at the very first. Our first little thing was playing E minor on 3 with the A pedal. It's quite all right to play that, but remember we said this is relative to a G that's on the 3rd fret. So let's say it another way. Let's say if you played E minor, if you turned the A pedal loose, what would you get? You'd get G. Now let's look at it another way then. If we played an A minor and you were playing an A minor and you were looking for things to play, if you remember that 8 with the A pedal is relative to C, because if you just turned the A pedal loose, what would you get? You'd get C. That means C chord is the relative chord to A minor. This is important. Again, let's look at it another way. You might be playing G minor on 6 with the A pedal. It is relative to B flat or 6 with no pedal. Let's look at it because we're going to use this here in a minute too. D minor is on 13 with the A pedal or 1, whichever you want to play. It is relative to F, which is on 13 or 1. Now all of these things are telling us a very important thing, and that's that the relative major chord sounds like these chords. Let's go over on the board just a little bit and you'll see what I'm talking about a little step farther. Let's go back to E minor. For E minor chord, which you normally think of as 3A, you could play a straight G chord. Now what's going to come out is not going to be a wrong chord. That's the first thing that hits a student's mind is that, what do you mean if the band plays E minor, don't I have to play E minor? The answer is absolutely not. If the band is playing E minor, here's what's happening. Truly, they're playing the minor chord, they're establishing the ground and the bass for all this thing. The bass note, you don't play bass, the bass player does this. He plays an E in the bass. And if you play a G chord in with what they're doing, mixing it in, not too loud, not too soft. If you're sitting at home playing your guitar, you're not going to be able to hear this. But if you play in with a rhythm track, or if you play in with a band, you're going to hear the band play E minor chord. You can play the relative major to it. In other words, just drop off that A pedal, and what's going to come out is a better chord than E minor or G. It's going to come out to be E minor 7th. And this is what we call an extended chord. It's a better chord than E minor ever thought of being, and it's truly not wrong. Now what we're saying is the overall sound sounds like this. In your mind, it sounds like a G, but in the audience and to the band, even if you play a G chord, they'll never realize that you're playing G chord, even though you know that, and in your mind, you know this is a G chord. As long as you know the band is playing E minor and that you could be playing E minor, then there's nothing wrong with playing the true E minor. We're talking about adding to what you know, not changing it out. Play this G. This is to say this. When the band is playing E minor, and you could be playing E minor, you could play a G on 3, or a G on 6A and F, or a G on 10 with pedals, or a G on 15. Remember, we said that G is a G chord anywhere we find it. Any inversion of a G, any chord group of a G would come out sounding like E minor or E minor 7th as long as you're playing it along with the band, as long as that bass note is there. Now, let's take it a little farther then. When E minor is the problem, that's where we're trying to play. That's some things we're trying to learn to do too. You have a lot of choices. We've doubled everything you know how to play right now. Yes, it's true, you could play 3 with the A pedal. You could play the 8 with the D lever. Or yes, you could go up here and play 10 with the B and C pedal and get a few licks. But remember what we said, that limits you, doesn't it? By remembering that the relative major chord is legal. It's a home bass that you can play too as well. You can play any G or any E minor. Now, you know a lot of neat little things about G, and you're familiar with G, and you know where those are. If you can remember, when they play E minor, play G. To tell you the truth, when I've been in the studio many, many times, when the band plays E minor, I have rarely ever played a true E minor because I want to hear that sound of E minor 7th. And I know a lot more about G chord than I do about E minor. So I just throw the E minor out mentally and play G. The band would never know. Nobody's ever stopped and said, hey, you're playing G chord there while we're playing E minor. It's just not true. It's not going to be heard. And that's the secret, or the cosmic secret of minor chords, I suppose. Now, we can go up in our book and cue up track number 1 on your rhythm track, and we're going to demonstrate how this sounds. On page 18 in your book, that we've got what we call the E minor out progression, or the little exercise. So let's go right to the guitar, and let's listen to it for a minute. Here's what's going to happen. We're going to be playing on 10 with pedals. The band plays G. And we're going to go down to 6A and F because those are both G. Now the band is going to change to E minor, but look what we're going to play. We're going to play 6A and F up to 10A and B. Now right here, playing like this, both of those sound like G to me. But when the band is playing in there and the bass note changes, the first one will sound like G. The second one will sound like E minor 7th. And it's the overall sound. Now, if you're playing your tracks real soft and your guitar real loud, you're not going to hear that. But you get them mixed right, it'll sound right. The band will go to G. We're going to 15. Back to 10 pedals. We're talking about 4 beats at a time. And then the band is going to go to E minor there on the end of line 1, and we're going to play G again. Now, we don't necessarily have to play exactly what I wrote. You could play any group. 5, 6, and 8 maybe, or 6, 8, and 10. You pick whatever group you want to play. Then let's go to the second line. We're going to go to C, and that's what the band will be playing. And then all of a sudden they'll play E minor, and we're going to play a G on 3 and slide to 6A and F. And that'll sound exactly like an E minor 7th. Quite a nice sound. Not near as vanilla as this sounds, that's for sure. Band will play C. We're going to play 8 to 11A and F. And then the band will play a quick E minor for 4 beats, but we're not going to play that. We're going to play straight G. Then a quick D. Now this track repeats 3 times. So what we're going to do is play page 18 there, 3 times through, and we can improvise. You play whatever your technique allows. But here's what it's going to sound like. Page 18, E minor out. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, G chord. E minor. G. E minor. C. E minor. C. Quick E minor. D. Start again. E minor. G. E minor. C. E minor. C. E minor. Start again. E minor. G. E minor. C. E minor. C. E minor. D, and end it on G. Now, this sounds very strange the first time you do it. You can't believe that you're playing a major chord and the band is playing a minor chord. But it's true, it works. And the licks and the chords always substitute out. Well, let's demonstrate this in another key. Let's go up to the next page, page 19 there, and we're going to play what we call the D minor out progression there. And we're going to be in the key of C, and we're going to notice this. This thing starts, and we go to the 2 minor. This was our 2 minor progression. And the band is going to go to D minor. And instead of playing 13A or 1A, we're going to play that straight F chord rather than the D minor, because we know that 13A is the same thing as F. Let the A pedal off. So we can play the D minor every time there on page 19 that you see a D minor. You're going to be able to play an F chord. Change track there to the audio track number 2 then. We're going to be in the key of C. And we'll go right, every time you see D minor, we're going to play F. Here we go. We'll play along with it. Listen to how this sounds. This is the D minor out. 1, 2, 1. 8 beats at a time. F. Again, sounds like D minor 7th. C. 8 beats at a time. F again. And a G. And now C. 8 beats, C on 3. Line 2, D minor 7th. Pure F, isn't it? 4A and F. Sounds like D minor 7th. C. And another C. Now 4A and F. Sounds like D minor 7th. Nice little progression there, C. Now we're going to repeat this again from the very top. D minor. Back to C. D minor 7th, F. G. Line 2 now, D minor 7th. 4. C. A and F, and C. All right, it's going to go out. And that is fun stuff. Now that makes you know something, because here's what we're saying. The ultimate truth of all this is that it's true. You could play the minor chord anyway. You have the A pedal, the D lever, the B and C. Get some pretty good licks out of that too. But drop that A pedal off of the A pedal position and find out what the relative major chord is. Then take that relative major chord and play the chords that comes out to be. Or this means this from now on. It means the chords are true, that the relative major, for instance, G is the relative to E minor. That means any lick or any phrase or any melody line, any scale that you might know is a G is also E minor or E minor 7th. So that says from the 3 little things you knew that were minor chords like A or D or B and C pedal, that means all the licks that you've ever played, all the licks that you've learned are now, G licks are now E minor. They have 2 names. That means not only do you know something about minor chords, but you can play a lot of neat things that are minor chords. Now, it's in your mind that it changes. In sound, it goes all over the place because of the bass note. If you don't get anything else other than that out of this 2 hours, you've got the real secret of minor chords. Finding them is one thing, but you've got to learn how to play them. In the next part, we're going to come back and take a lot of those scales and licks and melodies and really make them sing. All right, we'll see you the next time.
You were mine for just a while. Now you're putting on the style, and you've never once looked back at your home across the track. You're the gossip of the town, but my heart can still be found where you tossed it on the ground. Pick me up on